Let's start with the He-Man thing. Actually, I feel like this would be a fun conversation. So let's bring.
He-Man.
So Doc, bring us into this because you're the one
He-Man.
who talked about. I talked about this with today.
Yeah, so I'll bring out the nerd in me. So evidently, what's his name? Alex Smith or Kevin Smith? Kevin Smith is his name.
Kevin Smith. Yep.
Yeah, so Kevin Smith rebooted He-Man, and he wanted to make it a direct continuation from the original '80s series, but he wanted to remake it like knowing that the original fans had become adults, and so he decided to cater it to the adults. The biggest issue, though, is that about a year ago, I don't know if it's like non-liberal because liberalism and conservatism also encompass financial ideologies and stuff like that. But essentially, like there's this one podcast that kind of leans against woke ideology within geekery, and they have a source who's an inside animator. The animator leaked essentially to this podcast, Clownfish TV, that the story was going to be a woke story, that it's about his female love interest moving on past him and essentially becoming like a strong woman in herself, and then getting like a girlfriend and going on to take up the mantle of He-Man and stuff like that, and that He-Man's actually not even in the show.
So hold on real quick. Pause. Because I honestly, I'm a review. I've never watched really He-Man, the old ones, and the movie either with whatever that guy's name was. I forget.
I was already on anime, so I never, I think,
He-Man's old, pretty sure.
I know, but I'm saying I was on anime young, so it was just, I think the only, like, American
I think He-Man was before our time.
type thing was, but that I watched growing up was, the Cats.
Yeah. Oh, I know exactly what you're talking
Oh,
about.
Thundercats. Yeah.
Thundercats, ho.
But no, hold on real
So
quick.
for me, I kind of had the same thing where like my brother was the one who would talk to me about it because my brother's older, and so he would always be like, "Dude, He-Man this, He-Man that," and then Thundercats. And Thundercats was the only
okay.
one I actually saw because it came out on like Toonami at some point,
Yeah,
and
fact.
I actually got
remember.
into it.
Yep.
But He-Man never got brought back, and so I never caught up on it. The one that I did see was the 2000s release. It was like 2002 or something like that, and they rebooted it then. And that's the one that I caught up into the lore. I don't know how canonical it is from whatever the original was, but that one was badass. I loved it. I thought it was dope. The characters were cool. It took me into the universe of the story. But yeah, I kind of have the same vibe where I'm like, I guess I'm a casual going in on this, and so I'm not like super heated, but there are things about it that I just don't like. But I'll let you continue, Gene.
I was gonna ask the question about the love interest because you said she tried to pull away from He-Man, but she's a love interest. Like, was it one sided? Did they have a relationship? Because then my question is, did they change the character from
No, they dated.
straight woman to a lesbian?
I think they dated.
Because you
No,
said
dude.
that.
So I'll.
Because you said
like,
that
I'll
she
give
got a woman herself, didn't you? Or did I mishear
I'll give
you?
a big spoiler for the very first episode. He-Man dies. And so the rest of the show is this woman living in a Fallout universe of that moment. And so that kind of affected a lot of fans because they were just like, so it's not about him. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And
I watched some
so-
reactions to this one of his Kevin Smith's interviews. And apparently, what happened was people were upset because he acknowledged that people wanted more He-Man stuff, and he promised, like, man, you just wait till episode 6, wait till episode 6. So have you watched this all the way up to episode 6? Like, was there more He-Man stuff in episode 6?
There
or is it
isn't
just
an episode 6. It's only 5 episodes. They broke up the seasons into 2 parts, and they released the first 5 episodes.
so they're gonna bring him back in episode 6 in part 2?
Sort of. I don't want to give too many spoilers.
You're right.
away
You're right.
in
I don't
one
want to
go,
spoil. But
like,
you did say he was gonna die of episode 1, and then he came out and said like episode 6, episode 6. So I'm just
Yeah, well, so here's the thing, man. A year ago, this guy went on the offense against this podcast because they basically called out that it's a show pushing woke ideology, and he started the attack.
Seems
he
like it.
came out on Twitter and said, "Oh, ha! I wish I had those kinds of writers. I bet that'd be a great story." And like he mocked them, and then the show premiered last week, and it's exactly what was leaked. And so now everyone's like, dude, what the fuck? And he is in damage control, but he's doing terrible damage control. Like, he's calling out fans for being children, and he's like, y'all should grow the fuck up. Like, this is a more mature story. Like, this is different. And so he's continuing to attack the fan base that's upset with what he produced. And
literally a bait and switch.
like he has his own like podcasts and stuff like that where he talks about geekery. And so the issue is that he heralded this reboot as like a return to form. Like, this is He-Man and this is everything you know and love. I'm a comic guy. I am one of you. I won't destroy this for you. And
did he actually say something like that, or did he try to express?
Yeah, he did. Like, he did. This is all part of his marketing too. He actually said this shit. And so, if you watch the original teaser, it's He-Man. Like, you watch the teaser, and even like me just having like the 2000s like flashback of what the show was, I'm like, yeah, this is fucking He-Man. Like, this is just like big ass burly bodybuilder dudes saving the fucking universe in a magical like realm. And they're just going at this fucking skeleton that for some reason's a bodybuilder too. Like, it's just wacky and weird.
Buff
but it's
skeleton.
Fun, you know what I mean? And you're like, hell yeah.
That
like,
is
you're
a
seeing
wild
He-Man lift
concept,
like fucking like 2-ton rocks and flinging them at people and stuff like that. And he's fighting a man who's like a Sasquatch and stuff. That's only the first episode. Literally all that ends in like the first like 10 minutes of the show.
How long are these episodes?
They're 20 minutes long.
Yeah, I'm about to say
like 20 to 30.
Typical,
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
They're not like hour-long episodes, and so it's like a 5-part miniseries. They're like 20 minutes long. And so you see the teaser, and even I was like, damn, like, I'm actually psyched to see this. But when I saw the teaser, at the back of my mind, I had a thought, and the thought was, how are they making this in 2021? Because it undermines all modern, like, media, like all mainstream media, because it's a massive, masculine, white male who becomes all-powerful to save the universe, and all the men in there are extremely masculine. And it's just like, it almost goes to that point of like super masculine, so that you start to wonder, like, are they bears? Like, are they like that kind of like homosexual? Like, you know what I mean? So, but the entire time I was thinking about it, and I was like, dude, He-Man in a weird way represents everything that's hated right now. So I don't know how they're pushing this out, and I immediately knew they have to like wokeify it. Like, they're going to change it so that they can make it more palatable for modern mainstream.
They're gonna add a pink and yellow Ninja Turtle soon too. Watch.
Probably. And it was weird because like I started seeing the early review embargoes that got lifted, and everybody said that. Like, even I think IGN plays a lot into mainstream media when they do their reviews. You know, they walk on eggshells around like, you know, current ideologies, and they themselves said like, this isn't a He-Man show. This is about the leading actress. And so it again cemented what that one group said. And I think if they had just been like, oh, we're making a woke He-Man, it wouldn't have been as bad as if Kevin Smith hadn't blown up on that small podcast, which he like tripled their size too, by the way. Like, there's so many viewers now on that podcast, where if he hadn't gone at them and made fun of them for thinking that the show was going to be woke, and then actually being found out as a liar, it wouldn't be as bad. Like, it would just be typical. Like, we would just be like, oh yeah, they rewrote another series, and there we go.
I think the annoying thing is that there's an audience for what he's trying to do, but he chose to trick a specific audience into watching it.
Yeah, that's the worst of it. It's the deception.
Because like, if he marketed it like it was, then the woke crowd or the crowd who is into that type of stuff would have watched it, and then you would have had some people still check it out just to see if there's any of the He-Man that they loved in the show. But instead, he marketed it like somebody who actually cares about the culture, somebody who cares about a true what is it, like a true comic book aficionado, or a true
that's how he approached it.
Yeah, like, I'm gonna take care of you. Exactly. I'm gonna give you exactly what you want. I'm not gonna betray the cause, betray the feeling behind the original. And then he bait and switched them. And so everything that comes with it, I think should come with it. Because now he lost the opportunity to actually market it to an audience that would have liked it.
Well, not only that, but they're actually like, you can actually visibly see the marketing change. So it's getting review bombed, right? Like, it's getting all these like 30%, not just on to Rotten Tomatoes, but like, okay, so currently Rotten Tomatoes is sitting at 33%, and average tomato meter, which is the critics, is sitting at 95%. Critics obviously are following the mainstream So they're saying like, oh, it's changed the way we see Eternia and like all this stuff, which is like the realm that they live in. But the fan base, as far as like audience averages and scores, are just bombing this in there. And even Kevin Smith has come out saying like, oh, those are robots, like it's just bots, like the difference is there. Even in the podcast that he did where he was basically attacking the rabid fans, he turned off the chat for one thing in the middle of it because they were just flaming him. And then the comments are flaming him. He's got like a 15,000 downvote to 3,000 upvote ratio on that one podcast episode.
Sheesh.
And in the middle of it, he's basically making fun of people that are overreacting. Like he's calling them fucking kids for getting mad at like a kid's cartoon and stuff like that. And then he says that Netflix doesn't care. All they care about is like the 95% like critics review, and that they have 220 million subscribers, so their downvotes don't matter, and they're not going to make a dent in like them continuing the show and producing it and stuff like that. And so he basically shits on the entire fan base afterwards, and that's his damage control. And everyone's just like, "Fuck you, dude! Like, you basically you're just the villain now." And there was like one witty comment.
Sounds like he sold out.
Like,
that's what it sounded like to me. It sounded like he sold out straight up.
There's one witty comment that's just like the real Skeletor's actually been Kevin Smith the whole time, and like we just got fucking juked. And
he just wanted the money.
Yeah, pretty much that's kind of what it seemed like. Like he's already walked away from it and is starting to promote Clerks 3. But I think he's kind of tarnished
this guy
his brand
just
name.
wants the money.
And you're kind of seeing that happen. I don't know how much of the backlash is going to be for it. Like maybe the next 5 episodes completely turn the story around and make it really good. All in all, it's not a bad show. It's just not He-Man. And I think that's a critical part. Like, I've actually seen, like, mainstream reviews where they're like, it's a good show, but it's not He-Man.
That was honestly
like,
going to be my next question. Like, was the show actually good?
It's decent. It's a pretty cool story arc. But it wasn't what was shown in the trailers. And now, the trailers that are being brought out, like the premiere trailer and stuff like that, not the official teaser, which was the original one where it shows He-Man just kicking ass. It's only the girl, and then all the Netflix visuals, like the posters and stuff like that, it's only the girl. Like the one
right here on Rotten Tomato is He-Man, like it's all He-Man. And there's only 3.
Yeah. They brought you in thinking it was He-Man, and then they like changed the marketing super fast and super abrupt, which is really weird because it was like he was calling back the old fans specifically to show them what they loved, but then he presented something different. And I was like, if you would have just made something new, it wouldn't have been so bad. But the fact that you had to go and rewrite something deliberately to create a falsehood of hype, it's destructive. And the weird thing, too, is that even in the past, like, He-Man was supposed to be the boy show. I get inclusivity and all that stuff within the ideology, but He-Man was the boy show. There was a girl show. It was called She-Ra, and it's a spin-off series of, like, what happened if a girl got all this stuff. Damn. He-Man shows up to help She-Ra out, like, in her own adventures and stuff like that, and they cross-platform all the time, or what's the word? Like, I guess crossplay or whatever. But like they help each other out.
Mm-hmm. I remember her.
And so it doesn't make sense to destroy the guy's version, to wokeify it, when there's already a girl's version. Like
they just rebooted.
Yeah, it's weird. I kind of agreed with a comment that you said earlier this past week, where you were talking about how like they should just make new properties of LGBTQI or extreme liberal or like that the woke ideology. They should just create new properties of that stuff. And they to some extent are like there's new mutants and X-Men and stuff like that are like pushing woke ideologies and stuff like that, and I respect that. I don't really respect them going back and rewriting old characters to now be interpreted as this form as if they were always that way. Like it'd be cool if they went back, took the original property, introduced a modern character with woke ideology, and then had the conflict of them exchanging ideologies in person and stuff like that. So you still have the soul of the previous character, but now he's just embracing like modernity. You know what I mean? Instead of just being like, nope, he was always this way. Nope. Turns out he was always possibly gay. Because the show also has a lot of queer baiting. Like now you kind of can't tell if He-Man's gay or not. You also can't tell
What
if
you mean?
Teela's gay or not, and you're just like, okay, like I guess they.
And then Kevin Smith made a comment
like
about. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
he
so
like
if you watch the show,
like,
you kind of get like a vibe. Like, is Prince Adam actually a gay character who's just like now being brought out or like something like that?
I'm upset. Now I'm upset.
It's really, really weird, and I also think that again, I don't know how much to the source material like I'm shooting, but I don't like that Teela essentially goes by after He-Man dies, like to continue her life. I get the storyline and stuff like that, and Teela's a terrible fucking character, dude. Like,
who are the original writers of He-Man? Like, I'm assuming they obviously got the rights, like to do their own story, their own take on it. But
I don't remember.
How did they feel?
I don't know. I don't remember the original stuff, but I remember like the publishers.
I would be
Mattel.
upset. This is my story. What are y'all doing?
Who knows? I actually haven't seen like them harp in about it, but like the original publishers were Mattel, which is the toy company, and that's why He-Man was made to sell toys to little boys. But they got to a point to where like the whole family was watching because like all the boys and were like super interested that girls would sit down, like your sibling, your older sister. That's how my sister knows about He-Man. She would sit down to watch it because my brother was like, "This is He-Man." And then once She-Ra premiered, she was just like, "Okay, now I have my investment." And then they would power hour them where it was He-Man and She-Ra, and then like my brother and sister were glued to the TV watching stories in this universe, and it just kind of went already there. So we already had like an inclusive aspect to it. Even the Thundercats, like my sister loved like Chitara, like the cheetah girl from Thundercats, and she was a badass, dude.
This is how you know Dog was a true fan. He's busting out names on the spot, my guy.
Dude, I love that cartoon, man. Like honestly, if they were to do this, I'd be super hurt like for that cartoon. And so the thing about like with this show was
imagine
that
them doing that with Yu Yu Hakusho. So I had to make it like, I guess to understand the feeling, because I didn't watch He-Man like that. So I guess for me to relate it, like I guess for John also, if they did something like this to Yu Yu Hakusho, bro,
it's
my
like if they killed
childhood.
It's like if they killed Yu Yu and he actually went to the spirit world and didn't come back, and the story was just about the little sister, and they just called it Yu Yu Hakusho, and you're like, what the fuck? Like, that's not. He's not even the spirit detective. She's the spirit detective. Like,
no, that's Bleach.
What the fuck?
It's like Bleach being about Rukia.
There you go.
Yeah, kind of. Again, to kind of harp on a little bit more about it, like the show already had really strong women. Like the women aren't fools. They if anything, the guys are dumber than the women in the show, because the women are usually like extremely collected, except for like the villains and stuff like that. And you have like the sorceress who basically like controls everything and is all knowing, and like she has like her intense love interests with Man-at-Arms, who's like the burliest motherfucker in the universe in that series until He-Man comes out. And you have Teela, who's like his love interest, but she is the adopted daughter of Man-at-Arms, who's the burliest motherfucker in the universe aside from the champions of the realm, which are like the He-Man like lineage. And so you have Prince Adam, which is the main character, and he's a little bitch. All of his friends are little bitches too. He has like a scaredy cat that hates fucking conflict. His wizard that is like his sidekick is like incompetent. He can't cast spells properly, and they're just fuck ups. And essentially, the moral of the story is that you can be a fuck up, you can be a weakling, and you can, even his dad hates that he's a weakling, and it's like, and you can be shit in the eyes of your dad, but when push comes to shove, you man the fuck up and you deal with your problems. And that's what he does. He turns into He-Man when shit happens. So you have this very masculine story of like him conflicted with who he is, because to kind of put it in like a,
that's interesting,
in perspective, like he's a beta, but he turns into an alpha when he summons the power of Grayskull. And he loves a girl that is extremely strong, because she wants her father's recognition, who is one of the strongest guys in the realm. And so she doesn't take no shit. And she hates Prince Adam because he's a beta. But she starts to love He-Man. And he fucking has to mentally deal with that shit. Like, he has to fucking psychologically comprehend that, damn, I'm a little bitch in real life unless I have this sword. And it's a very real conflict for the character.
Damn, that's real, actually.
Yeah, and not only that, though, but because he gets confidence from turning into He-Man.
Men don't feel like they're loved unconditionally. That there's always a
that's
condition.
interesting.
There's always a condition for their love.
So, like, because he gets confidence from turning into He-Man, he starts taking that confidence back into Prince Adam. He starts being like really outspoken in the courts and stuff like that. And then Teela starts to fall in love with Adam, who's a different form of man. And now there's this weird trifecta of a love paramour, but two of the characters are the same person. It's just a secret identity that, like, she can't know who He-Man's true identity is. And Adam has to deal morally with, like, who does she love? Does she love He-Man or does she love Adam? And, like, which one is the real me?
When he turns into He-Man, does his personality change?
Forever in front of her.
When he turns into He-Man, does his personality change?
Yeah, he's just super alpha. Like, he's just like, I got this. I'm confident.
But is it the
I have
same
the power.
person? Like, or is there, like, an actual internal voice that...
No, I think he's the same. I think his voice gets deeper, maybe.
His voice gets deeper. It's like
it's not like a Naruto Ninetales type thing.
No. It's just he goes from being not I want to say scrawny, but like a basic hero. I'll see if I can look it up right now.
It's like Yugi. Like, he goes from being Yugi to
okay.
the Emperor.
No. What the reason I say that is Yugi had an internal voice that was the Emperor.
Sure, but no, it's not.
That's what I'm asking.
So this is him in his
He-Man form.
Yeah, He-Man form. Now let me see if I can just look up normal form.
Right there, under. Holding up the sword.
Did I miss it?
Yeah, go back.
Type in Prince Adam.
Oh, Prince Adam, good.
Yeah, smart. Disney had
That's funny. There you go, right there. Boom. And right there.
Okay.
That's him. So he just goes from being that to that.
Yeah.
And then I guess his voice gets deeper. But do you mean like, what do you mean by change then?
No. I just made sure he didn't have an internal, like, He-Man isn't his own personality living within Adam.
No, it's not like a Hulk. It's not like a Hulk.
Yeah,
I don't think so. At least
not initially. Like, as the character grows, they kind of start to blur the lines about who He-Man and Prince Adam is, because, like I said, the confidence from He-Man starts to fill into Prince Adam, and Prince Adam's like diplomacy starts to fill into He-Man, because He-Man at first is just like a brute, but he's like a good guy. He's just a little too much. Mm-hmm. And then Prince Adam is a little too little, and he can't do anything for himself, and he's helpless, and everyone thinks he's weak, and they expect a lot of him because he's the prince of this realm, and he's supposed to protect it. And then you have this like barbarian running around that's actually doing his job and stuff like that. And there's a lot of politics in that too, and like Adam has to deal with all of those issues.
Now I'm mad you fucked the show up.
Yeah, no, up. Yep, this would have
been so it kind of sucks that like once they turned her like possibly bi, we don't know for sure yet, and they kind of got rid of his character, like that whole development is just gone. We're just like, oh well, like it's no longer like, in a weird way, like even though I'm like an adult, it's kind of sad to say, but it's like it's not a boy show anymore. Like you're not getting those lessons of what it feels like to kind of grow into adulthood.
Well, the perfect example is that video you shared with me, where his transformation straight up was a Sailor Moon transformation.
Oh, dude. Yeah, they gave him a Sailor Moon transformation. That I'm not too upset, because there's always been rainbows and stuff like that. It's based off of
but it was way too Sailor Moon vibe, dude. It was way too hard of a Sailor Moon vibe.
But the original shows always had quirkiness like that, like where you were just like, okay, like he's just running around in rainbows. Like, I think that's based off of the Viking stuff with like the Bifrost.
I got to install Messenger.
Oh yeah, it's in your Messenger.
Can't do that right now.
It's cool.
I'll show you after.
Yeah, it's cool.
But yeah, that's I guess one thing I only want to touch on real quick was the fact that video you shared me where it was a Sailor Moon. That's the last topic I want to mention before we change subjects. I thought that was a little credence to what you just said.
Dude, the weirdest thing is that like that's the only transformation. Like I felt it like because the actual version is epic. Like even though it's Sailor
episode
Moon
6, maybe he'll make a comeback, some kind of revival. It is a magical universe.
That's what everyone's hoping. The issue for what's going on is the damage that's been done by basically the web of lies that happened to it. And so now everyone's kind of mouth has been like soured by the whole situation, and everyone's like, damn, we're not going to get what was the original growings and like the original intent of the story and stuff like that. Dude, even like there's one character that's a female that has the strongest arc of development throughout the entire 5 episodes, and at the end of it, they just completely shit on it. And I was just like, dude, what? Like, even the story that I was like, this is a good fucking woke story, they just destroyed it. Like, I was like, what the fuck? Like, why? Like, it makes no sense. A lot of the storytelling, the main girl who's like the supporting lead actress, her reason for being like pissed throughout the entire series, it's selfish as fuck. And like, she's basically mad that he saved the world at the cost of his life throughout the entire fucking show. And he's just like, there's literally a point where he's just like, you know why I did it, right? And then she's like, well, it wasn't fair to me. And you're just like, I was like, literally like, what the fuck am I watching, dude? Like, this is
I saw
stupid.
That meme. They're making that scene in comparison to the Invincible scene.
Yeah, dude.
Where what's his face? I forgot his name. Where he reveals to his girlfriend that he's whatever his name is, Invincible.
It's very much the same situation.
Like, I've always known.
Yeah, so it's just really, really bizarre where they're like, taking a lot of it.
Change the way you would interact with me. Extremely selfish.
Extremely selfish.
So real quick, was She-Ra in this new one at all?
No.
What?
Okay. I don't understand why either. If they're gonna pull in characters like crazy, unless maybe like the next 5 episodes she comes in and, you know, helps out. But it's kind of seeming like they're going to set up this character to take up the He-Man mantle. The only thing that I like I said, is that She-Ra exists. So there's already a version of that. So for them to do it, like, they would have to explain that.
They gotta turn they're gonna turn She-Ra to Hera, and they're gonna make that shit work just like that. It's gonna be a flip flop.
See, I brought this up to Doc when he talked to me about this, and it was, why can't they just try to write their own stories instead of remaking all these stories? These stories were successful in the time they were created by the people who initially created them and wrote them. Why do you feel like you then need to take up the mantle to write your adaptation of it? Like, because at the end of the day, it's not your original thought. And that's why it's not being, I would say, a lot of these remakes aren't being well received because it's either
overcorrecting. I think he was scared that he would get a negative press because if he stuck with the type of masculinity that was in He-Man, I think he was scared of what, pardon me,
woke culture would have said instead of the other culture.
Exactly. And so he overcorrected or tried to guesstimate what the room was and thought that was the best thing to do. But his problem was why did he lure that specific crowd? He lured that specific crowd and told bait and switched them. Like,
yeah,
no
I
other
think
way
that's
you put it.
The very core issue of it too, because it's like you have these old stories and people know why they like them, and you're telling people you're going to continue them, but then you change them on them, and it's very much an insult to that group. Because if you really think about it, like some of the shit that Kevin Smith is saying is right. Like, this is a show for kids, and we all know that back in the day.
Man,
but he's being a dick by saying that. No,
let me finish my thought. Like, back in the day, like, we were geeks, and it was lame, like, to like this in front of girls and stuff like that. But they still carried these fucking properties on their backs. You know, the whole bullshit of like Star Wars fans are just fucking nerds, and they never got any of that shit like that. This was fucking the nerd can be the bro, like, you know, literally the show. And so those people carried this property on their back. And it's as if these creators are coming in and they're taking it from them. And they're saying, well, now it's going to represent this. Everything you've carried and hold true is we're now going to steal and use for our ideology. And I think that's why it's so insulting. Because it's just like, dude, this wasn't cool back then. And you're fucking using it. And we fucking made it something. And you're shitting on us when we did all the work. And it's just driving fucking people
like I said,
that's why I'm
curious what the writers are saying about this, because it's their original creation. They're taking it and doing their own thing with your. I don't know, like,
you know what it's like.
That's why my question is still: why can't we just write something new? Like, I just want something new. That's why I appreciate anime. Anime, you always get there's so many people trying to be freaking manga writers to get to anime adaptations.
You know what Kevin Smith did? He was like, man, it's like owning a
Supreme
sports team,
anime.
right? It's like having a sports team, right? A whole bunch of loyal fans. Well, you know, we're going to change the name. We're going to be the Minnesota Dickheads. And yeah, you've been rooting for the team your whole life. Now you're a dickhead because I said so. That's just what he did. He just poo-pooed on everybody who remained loyal to the show, who would have had any real interest based on the past of the show. He didn't appeal to anybody who really watched the show.
Who really appreciated the show.
Not at all.
All right.
I'm hoping the next 5 episodes saves it, but
He in that studio right now whooping the shit out of whoever he got to whoop to get that shit done. I promise he trying to fix it. But then the thing is, man, look, I say this all the time. You can't play two sides. So that was a burp. If he tries to placate now, if he tries to go back and undo what he's done or tries to appeal to the crowd that he was supposed to appeal to originally, it's not going to be balanced based on the first 5 episodes. There's just no way. Like, there's just no way. So now you're just going to leave everybody unhappy.
Is it going to be, what was the Star Wars, the 3rd episode in the new?
Yeah, a lot of people are comparing it to that. They're waiting to see what the toy sales look like because that's ultimately what killed the newer trilogies. The toy sales were so low for Rey. And I saw a podcast with a store owner, and he was just like, yeah, he's like, we couldn't sell them. As soon as they got boxes of the toys, they would have, like, the reboots of the old toys for, like, Han Solo and all of those guys. And then they would have the new toys, and immediately they would go to Rey and, like, Finn and all the new ones, and they would mark them half off, and they would put them on the shelf.
Damn.
They couldn't push them because people.
So what's Disney going to do about that?
What's up?
Are they going to finish it?
They already did the trilogy.
I don't think so. I think they're gonna let
they're focusing on the shows
Netflix
now.
or the Disney Plus shows. They're gonna let those shows re-energize the
Dude, the Mandalorian saved them.
Again. Yeah.
Right now they're feeding off the Mandalorian hype. That's what they're doing because they've already coming out with so many Star Wars. Like they're gonna bleed that industry dry, man.
Yeah. Well, before we move on, let me actually ask y'all something. There's something else that I was actually discovering while I was going through like the research for this He-Man stuff. But there is actually some shit going down with comics and manga where American comics are being vastly undersold compared to manga. And I saw an old writer from like the 60s and 70s, and he was saying that the reason that he believes that this is happening is because we're saturated with heroes. So the big two, Marvel and DC, are only putting out superheroes, and it's gotten oversaturated. And they are all pushing ideology, whereas manga has an extreme variety, and it's not all pushing ideology. So people are willing to explore different mangas that exist instead of just being force-fed superherodom.
I agree with that.
Yeah, we're getting tired of hero stories.
The more the dark ones are the ones sticking.
They all have an essence of heroism to
they
it.
do, yeah. But like Castlevania.
Yeah, the one on Netflix, yeah.
Yeah, like it has when the hero isn't so much a clear-cut hero. Mm-hmm. It seems to be
the anti-hero kind of thing.
Yeah, seems to be more palatable for people nowadays.
Mm. All right, we had a long discussion on He-Man. Doc had a lot to say. You felt this one, bro.
Yeah, dude. I honestly last comment I'll say is that it felt kind of weird, like watching it, and I honestly I was suppressing the emotions I felt for it because there's a lot of me that was saying like, dude, it's just some fucking kid shit. Like that's all it is. And then the moment like Kevin Smith came out on his thing and he said, grow the fuck up, like that really rang on me, and I was like, you know what, like this shit is dead. Y'all killed it. I should actually just grow the fuck up and not think about this anymore. And like that was literally like my thought where I was just like, man, fuck you, dude. Like that was it. Like
damn.